Joining us today in the studio to discuss U.S. President Trump's upcoming visit to Israel and the future location of the American embassy is Dr. Chaim Weizmann, an expert on Israeli-American relations. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So let's begin. What can we expect from Donald Trump's visit to Israel?
A lot of ceremonies, a very warm welcome, very little essence. That's what I think.
Now, why is that?
I think he is not crystallized yet. He doesn't know exactly what he wants to do. His people push him and pull him to all directions. And he's coming from Saudi Arabia, where he meets Arab leaders. He can't just, after that, move the embassy to Jerusalem. They will tell him he cannot do it. It will cause here a chaos, a lot of terrorism, a lot of attacks against Americans, against Israelis, and I don't see him doing it right now.
Now, it's not only Arab states that are advocating against the move. We are hearing reports that the Prime Minister of Israel himself, Netanyahu, actually secretly told President Trump that it was not a good idea to move the embassy. Now, Netanyahu is denying those allegations. He's released audio recordings of his conversation with Donald Trump. What do you think about that move? What is your response to his choice to share private conversations with the president publicly?
Henry Kissinger once said that Israel doesn't have foreign policy, only internal policy, internal politics, more than internal policy. And Mr. Netanyahu is intimidated by Mr. Bennett. And Mr. Bennett accused him indirectly of giving up moving the embassy to Jerusalem. So he had to prove that he is no less a patriot than Mr. Bennett. Now, it's true that he released the protocol of his conversation with President Trump, which is a precedent. However, the fact that he said or he revealed what he said, he didn't reveal what President Trump said. So it is within the boundaries of diplomacy.
I mean, we're talking about very internal political issues within the Israeli government that are now being affected by this embassy move, which is really the United States' decision. Why is that? What do you think this impact is going, the impact of moving the embassy would have on the Israeli government coalition itself?
It creates, it enlarged the flames. There is a fight between Mr. Bennett and Prime Minister Netanyahu. Prime Minister Netanyahu is afraid that Mr. Bennett is stealing his base, his right-wing base. And if you look at Israeli politics in the last 2 years, it's all the time Mr. Netanyahu is looking what Mr. Bennett is saying, what Mr. Bennett is doing, what Mr. Bennett is about to do or about to say, and he tries to preempt his moves. For example, let's take the case of Elor Azaria. Okay, Mr. Netanyahu, Prime Minister Netanyahu first denied the act. He condemned the act. But when Mr. Bennett applauded to Elor Azaria, Prime Minister Netanyahu shifted his position in 180 degrees and called the father and came out with the declarations that supported the Elor Azaria. So this is what he is doing in the last. What he has been doing in the last at least 2 years.
Well, I mean, there is no doubt that the U.S. president, his choices and his choice in regard to the embassy is going to impact what is happening here in Israel on the ground within the government. But, I think the bigger question here is why is Donald Trump so set on being involved in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict? Shouldn't he be focusing on making America great again, as he said in his campaign? And can we really expect him to be successful?
He will be successful somehow. I believe he will be successful in bringing them together, I mean, President Abbas and Prime Minister Netanyahu. Essence, I doubt. Now, for Mr. Trump, making America great again is also making America again the policeman of the world. Being here, he saw what happened when America didn't do anything. Okay, after President Obama declared about the red line, that if Assad is crossing that line, which was chemical attack against his civilians, and nothing happened after declaring the red line. And what happened? The Russian came in. And Mr. President Trump struck already once, showing and insinuating, I'm not going anywhere, I'm here. You will have to take me into consideration when you deal with this area.
Well, I guess we're going to just have to wait and see what happens next week when President Trump finally hits the tarmac here in Israel. Thank you so much for joining us, Doctor.
Thank you. Thank you very much.